Hi, today's video is about boastful women, and I think they're pretty much a bit of a rarity. Women tend to avoid being boastful or showcasing their pride or their talents for fear of being shamed and belittled. You hear a lot of women who are proud of themselves often being described as, up herself or vain or self-obsessed or obnoxious, and no one really wants to be sort of mocked or demoralized like that, so it's often easier just to not put yourself out there. I find that if a woman makes a claim to being really good at something, as well as being seen as a show-off and all those other things, people will tend to challenge her, especially if it's something that doesn't fit into our typical gender roles. People will always tend to ask for proof and not believe her, whereas I think people, if a guy is boasting, people will tend to just believe that he's telling the truth. And because we don't want to sit there and explain ourselves and prove ourselves to everyone, and why should we? So, and if you're like really happy with something and you're running around going how proud you are about this achievement, and someone's like, I want proof, it's really demoralizing. So often I think it's just easier not to mention it at all, which is a massive shame. And I think we tend to make excuses and downplay our attributes and our achievements because it makes it less easy for people to sort of attack us for them. We say things like, oh, I was just lucky, it was an easy exam, or, oh, I'm not actually that clever, I had to work really hard on this, or, oh, it's no big deal, people are doing this all the time, or whatever. And it's a massive shame. If we downplay our achievements to other people, we tend to downplay it in our head as well, so we don't even recognise our own strengths and achievements, which is terrible. And I'm sure there's this thing I have, which I'm sure many women share with me, in that I find it really difficult to accept compliments. And media messages tend to contradict all of the compliments that we get. So when we're constantly being bombarded with these messages that we're not good enough, and then we hear from a friend or family or someone we know something that's completely opposite to that, it's very difficult to take seriously and to believe. And it turns out that we women have developed selective hearing. We hear all of the put-downs and the criticisms, and we really internalise them. But then we brush off and forget all of the compliments and the praise. And we need to unlearn this. We absolutely do, and we need to turn this on its head and do it the other way around and completely brush off all the harmful media messages and internalize all of the compliments and all of the good messages about ourselves and believe them. And just before someone pipes up saying, oh, it's the same for men, it's not. There are studies that have suggested that women brag and boast less, and that the quality of their boasts are different. A recent study, a 2006 study, has found evidence to say that female bragging strategies may be less extreme or intensive than male bragging strategies. And it also says that people will perceive the boasts differently according to the gender of the boaster, which is really interesting. So women tend to be valued as worse when they boast than when men boast. Got an example of that, actually. One time when I bragged, I was just bragging about, embarrassingly enough to my friend, I was bragging about how I had got with someone and spent the night at theirs, and my friend's reaction was just kind of like, no, I don't want to hear that. What? That's really embarrassing. Don't boast about that. Oh my gosh, Subi, blah, blah, blah. And then at first I was just like, oh, okay. And then I kind of thought, you hear guys talking about that all the time. And you hear guys boasting about who was their last, fuck, and everyone would be like high-fiving them and yeah, getting their mate and all of that, and they're proud of it and their friends congratulate them. And whereas if I say something like that, I'm shamed for it, even by other women. What I find the most frustrating is when women are shaming other women for being proud of themselves. And when we do this, we're reinforcing the patriarchy, and we're giving other people permission to silence us too. And I think this happens because we've been taught to find all these faults in ourselves. And when we do this, we learn to find fault in other people as well. Especially through things like jealousy. Especially if someone else is more happy, if they're happier with themselves than you are with yourself, and we tend to get really jealous about it, and there's sort of all this internalized misogyny going on and this girl hate, and it really needs to stop. And I think when we're proud of ourselves, it's a real challenge to the power system. And this shame and this lack of confidence are a result of years of subjugation. And confidence and pride gets you places. It gets you far in life, and it gives you a platform and a louder voice. And we're constantly getting these messages to be, ashamed or humble or reserved. And screw humble, be proud. People are gonna pipe up about it, but screw them. If you're awesome, be awesome and shout about it. Like, we should be proud of our achievements, and we should let everyone know that we're proud of our achievements. Because why not? We're awesome.